So you're still watching the morning news on TV3. And out of the 6.3 million children living in Ghana, 1.3 of them are involved in child labor. And of those also, 242,000 at least are considered to be in some kind of worse forms of child labor, including children who have been trafficked and enslaved. And as part of its mission to help children in crisis in Ghana, the Hovde Foundation has partnered with Challenging Heights International, and they are committing $350,000 to building a shelter, and it will be called the Hovde House, to help Ghanaian children who have been rescued from slavery, from child trafficking, and all those kind of child labor activities in the fishing industry. I have in the studio the Executive Director for Hovde Foundation, Jeffrey Boyd, Executive Director. You're welcome into studios. Now, tell me a bit about your foundation and why you want to collaborate with Challenging Heights International. And I know that James Kofi Annan is the Chief Executive or the Executive Director, so to speak.
Yes, the Hovde Foundation was started a few years ago with the goal of helping children who are in crisis and vulnerable situations, those who are trafficked, living on the streets, abused. And we came to know James about a year ago through his international awards that he won in the United States. And I came to visit and really felt like his program was worthy of our attention. And we are building 2 more in Africa, in Kenya and Rwanda, and hope to do more here as well, and really felt like it was a great program to support.
Now, I'll ask you about the shelter and why you're building it, but what really do you know about child trafficking and child labor, or worst forms of child labor here in Ghana?
Well, through my connection with James, I've learned a lot. You know, things are very shocking, and I've traveled to the Lake Volta region for a few days with him. I've seen with my own eyes some of the kids who are enslaved on the lake in the fishing industry. I've definitely read enough about it. I've read the State Department Trafficking and Persons Report. I've got a lot of information throughout my travels and have learned quite a bit, and learned there's a huge need. A need that we can help address, even though it's a small amount, but it's a good contribution.
You're saying you keep traveling around Africa. Now, here in Ghana, there's always this very thin line between what a child is doing that is a worst form of child labor, or how you term a child to be trafficked, and then a child helping the parents, which is also just a traditional norm here. How do you tend to distinguish that this child is being put in some kind of child labor activity?
I think there are 2 distinguishing factors. One was the child removed from his home against his will, and 2, is he being forced at the threat of violence, abuse, and lack of liberty to work against his will as well. So in many cases, these children are sold from their families to a slave master, taken miles and miles away to various remote parts of the country, and forced to work 14, 15, 20 hours a day and undergo various extreme conditions. That's the difference between child labor, working at the home, helping their family, and being trafficked and enslaved.
And so, since you know that very difference, your house, the Hovde House that you're going to build with some funding, $355,000 in the central region, so to speak.
Yes.
How is it going to be like?
Well, it'll be a large group home. It'll have a boys' side, a girls' side, enough to hold 50 to 60 children, most of whom will be rescued from the fishing industry, but also from perhaps the cocoa industry, mining. Central region is because it's a nice central place for the northern part of the lake and the southern part to come together. A lot of the kids are trafficked from the Winneba region to the north part of Lake Volta. So it's a nice place to bring them back, to rehabilitate them and reintegrate them back into their communities in the south part of the region.
And how is the house going to be managed? And I know Challenging Heights will be very instrumental in this.
Yeah. Well, we've had experience now running houses in other countries, Mexico, Peru, Rwanda, Kenya. So we'll help them design the structure of the house, the physical structure, as well as the programmatic structure. So we'll have 4 or 6 kids in a room, in bunk beds, and each of those groups will have a house parent, if you will, who lives in the room as well, in a separate room, and monitors those kids, helps them with counseling, helps them with rehabilitation, some job training perhaps, some educational skills, life skills, you know, for a short term, a month, 2 months, 3 months, as they're getting back from this condition of slavery back into their normal life.
You mean they will be reintegrated into society? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or back to their families?
Yes. Into their families and or their communities, if they don't have families that want them back or can take them back. Part of Challenging Heights' work is to identify these children who they can rescue and bring them back into their communities. Otherwise, what do you do with these kids long term?
The Hovde Foundation, how do you hope to take this very collaboration with Challenging Heights onto another level?
That's a great question, Roland. I really believe this project could be a flagship project for us. I think James is a very creative leader. He's got entrepreneurial skills. We hope to actually introduce a for-profit business component to the project, selling fruits and vegetables from a farm that we plan to raise in order to help subsidize the cost of the house. So it'll be a more self-sustaining project over the long term, adding a much greater value to the Ghanaian people.
And before we let you go, you think that this is going to be the flagship project that also is going to be replicated in other parts of the country, not only maybe by Hovde Foundation, even if it is by your foundation?
That's part of my hope in actually getting this message out to people, is that we can collectively think about how to help these children, whether it's Challenging Heights or other groups that are working in the field, and possibly replicate the project here or elsewhere in Africa, around the world.
When did you come into Ghana, and have you traveled anywhere?
I've been here for a week. I've been to Yeji in the Lake Volta region, across the lake on a boat. I've been to Cape Coast and Winneba a few times, and I'm leaving tomorrow, but I'll be back again soon.
Okay. Do you like Ghana?
I like Ghana.
Well, we'll have to talk some other time when you're back here in Ghana again.
Thank you, Roland.
And we'll still be communicating. Hovde Foundation Executive Director Jeffrey Boyd, and they are collaborating with NGO Challenging Heights International, headed by James Kofi Annan, to put up a shelter. They call it the Hovde House in the Central Region. It's going to cost in excess of $350,000, and it's going to also house primarily children who have been enslaved, pulled into some kind of activity or work called child labor. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back.